Good evening and welcome to MCFC 9320 PUBcast. I just thought it's fitting actually because we've not done a show since the sad passing of Franny Lee, so I just thought it was apt to get the show off with a bit of perspective and thoughts really about Franny. Good evening, Paddy. Good evening, Stan. Good evening, Geoff. Thank you for joining us, sir. And good evening to everybody in the chat. How is everyone?
Good, Andy. Thank you.
Yeah. I think what we'll do, I think we have to, speak about Franny a little bit later on. Well, first, I think we're going to have to get the match out of the way, aren't we? For those who are wondering where Anne-Marie is, she's ripped her digital season ticket up now. She says she's going to start supporting Chelsea again. That's why she's not with us. So disappointed, but we couldn't get her on. So should we get into it? Geoff, you're quite lucky, really, aren't you, mate? You didn't really see it all.
No, I've got a good excuse not to say much. And probably you're thinking you wish that you were doing what I was doing for the last few hours, driving back from Devon, so I couldn't watch it. Although sadly we got back for the last 17, 18 minutes. So I don't know whether that means we jinxed it. But I heard the commentary, and I probably feel I know about as much of it as you guys who watched it. It sounded that awful.
Well, yeah. Listen, it wasn't the best. Good evening to everybody in the chat. I've made a few notes. It'll probably go out of the window. I don't think Arsenal were all that, Paddy, but it was yet another bad day at the office for us. And hopefully we'll get into the reasons why as the show goes on. What was your thoughts today, buddy?
I thought it was probably one of the worst games I've seen in a long time. I thought it was absolutely dire. The walk and pace. It was like nobody wanted to do one. Oh, there she is.
Did you have a change of heart, did you, Anne-Marie? Hey? Can you hear us, Anne-Marie?
She's watching Chelsea highlights while she's joining, I think.
Anne-Marie!
Not once for yes, twice for no, Anne-Marie. Are you with us, love?
She's missing her headset from China.
She's clearly watched the game.
Other countries. Anne-Marie, woo!
I can't hear you.
Well, you silly old sausage.
I'll be back.
Okay, Anna.
Okay,
Anna. So,
no, she usually that match was
So, Paddy, yeah, it wasn't the best. But I think perspective has got to be put in here a little bit because, yeah, I think nobody could have predicted the way we set up. But we'll go into the positives in a bit because I still think there's positives today. Look at the players we've got out, and these are not excuses, by the way, everybody. It's facts. Positives are we've got Stonesy back in the fold now. He played a little bit of a part in the match. Although he shouldn't have been on the pitch today, Kovacic is still coming back from niggles as well as joining the fold. Bernardo's still recovering. I thought he did okay. Bernardo, he got more into the game. And these are just my thoughts. You'll all have your own thoughts. Jack is still not 100%. We was also missing Rodri today because of his silly red card. And we've got KDB. Now, you give us a full-strength side, Stan, and nobody's got a chance in the league.
Yeah, I tell you, once everyone's back and we've got the band back together, we'll win this league by about 10 points. And you can bookmark that. I'm pretty confident on it. Because this was an Arsenal team who had their best chance in, what was it, about 2016, the last time we didn't do the double on them. And to be fair, at the end of the day, the only thing that separated us was yet another goal off somebody's bonds and been deflected. That's 3 games. Not 3 games. That's the last 3 goals in the league. The Wolves one, the own goal, the Hwang one that just went all over, and now this one.
And by the way, the Hwang one, he shouldn't have even been on the pitch either.
No, but then again, this is where things sort themselves out, don't they? Like Kovacic probably shouldn't have been on the pitch. So, we're all fuming and we've all got it. But at least in this occasion, this is why you don't replay matches. Somewhere down the line, it'll come back. But we didn't have the control we normally have. And that's obvious because we've got 2 world-class players not in the team. And we were a little bit aired and scared them at time. And as you were saying there, Andy, there was a few players coming back from injury. There was a few players doing it. I just think we lost. I think we ran out of steam a little bit at the end. I thought Rico was outstanding for what he did. Team was fine.
I'd say Rico got into the game a little bit. He looked a little bit lost. But I'm going to call out Phil Foden. I thought Phil Foden was very, very good today, and he won't get the recognition because of the result. I thought it was a real mature performance from him today.
He's coming on leaps and bounds, that lad. Every time he plays, he's getting better and better.
You didn't agree with me then, Stan?
Well, yeah, unfortunately, I have to. It's obviously it's that time of the day and the clock stopped, so I'm going to have to agree with you.
Hey, you're right. Even a clock's right twice a day. A broken one as well. So, Geoff, aren't you lucky that you didn't catch it all? So, with what you've heard on commentary and stuff like that, and your lad watching it, let's see if you can gauge it right how it was.
Well, at first I'm a little bit worried because I listen to you and normally I'm thinking what a load of nonsense Andy's talking about, and I have to agree with everything you're saying at the minute. Which I hope you're not being not your normal self today, just because I'm on. I mean, that would be really disappointing. So
you checks in the post.
Yeah,
checks in the post.
No, I mean, I think what you said makes it look. We're not we are armchair managers, but in terms of tactics and all the rest of it, we've all got opinions, but let's be honest, we don't know as much as Pep and his team. But in terms of the perspective on it, yeah, if you look at the results, we're unlucky to lose 2. We could easily have drawn or whatever. So that's neither in there for me. And we're still, in terms of points, there's nothing in it at this stage of the season. So that's sort of irrelevant. In terms of the way we're playing, I mean, I think there's clearly a little bit of concern about Haaland. Is it because he's just having a little dip in form or not getting the service? All strikers have a bad patch, so you can argue your way out of that one quite easily. I only saw the last 20 minutes, and there's a couple of little things from Núñez which I really loved, and he looks our sort of player to me. And again, very early days, and was actually the fact he just spot that little bit of space, take a man on, and drive forwards. I thought was really, really encouraging. But overall, we didn't deserve anything today. It sounds like Kovacic should have clearly been sent off from what everyone was saying. I'm not going to disagree with that as well. So we had a bit of luck there. But we've got top players to come back. To be fair, Arsenal were missing probably 3 at the start of the game as well. So they would say
they had Martinelli, Saka. They had Martinelli on the bench. So really, there was only they could have picked a full strength team really with apart from Saka today.
Yeah, and Saka, that's the sort of game Saka probably would have actually made a difference to be quite honest, just as some of ours. So, no, I mean, I'll keep quiet now because I've not seen it, but clearly we didn't really deserve much today, as 1 or 2 comments are saying. But it's about what happens now, really. It's still very early days. I don't think anyone's going to be worried in the City camp. We've still got players betting. It takes ages. I mean, look at Rodri. I challenge people on this, and the very few City fans who weren't very negative about Rodri when he started off for many, many games. Too slow, can't do this. Now we can't do without him. We all have to be, I think, quite honest with ourselves and actually say, what did we say? What did we think? If someone can actually say, I said from first game, Rodri was world class, and that's why I can't think of anyone who was saying that at that time. So we've got players we're just betting in now, and it's too early to judge, I would argue. But in terms of the game, I can't comment, fortunately, because I'm probably one of the lucky ones who've not seen it.
You are the lucky one. And when I was pointing down there, I was just saying Martin was in that camp of about Rodri. Wasn't you, Martin? Anne-Marie.
What was he called? Sorry, Andy, just while I remember. You're right there, Geoff. They called him Ploddery, didn't they? Because he was plodding around and he was slow. Not bad for an old plodder.
You Stan? You know about you?
Well, I'm talking of experience there. Go on anyway. Sorry, I'll let you jump back in.
So, Anne-Marie, and we'll touch upon the women. No, I'm going to have to rephrase that. We'll talk about the women's game a little bit later on as well, because there's controversies in there, wasn't there?
Yeah, there certainly was.
Well, let's concentrate. I know you like to do this, Anne-Marie. Let's concentrate on the men for now. What was your thoughts on today's?
For me, it's summed up easily. 3 games without Rodri, 3 defeats. That's a big issue. It really is.
And thank you for all joining us. Anne-Marie's just summed it up perfectly. Yeah, but we've got to. I tell you what did speak volumes though today. That Rico has got in ahead of Calvin.
Yeah,
I think that's a little bit concerning that today. Geoff, I need to. We speak about this quite often. I don't mean me and you, by the way. I mean on our show we speak about this quite often. I'm absolutely pro Calvin Phillips. I really want him to do well. I think he deserves a run in the team because he does. What's your thoughts on this?
Again, worryingly, I'm sort of with you on that, or at least I have been until perhaps the last couple of games. I think he's had a couple of opportunities, Newcastle, where he just didn't do it. And I think for a lot of people, that was almost a bit of a final straw. Look, we've been patient long. I mean, some people I think were making judgments so early, it was ludicrous, to be quite honest. He plays for England. He's clearly not a bad player. It's about whether he fits into our system or whether he can just amend and adjust and enhance his game, that which I'm sure Pep is trying to do with him in training. So I honestly don't know, but he seems a great lad. He's clearly very much part of the camaraderie of the great spirit we have in the camp. And wouldn't it be great if he came good? But everyone seems to be against him from quite, well, not everyone, but and he hasn't done himself any favors. I absolutely get that, but he's not a bad player. The question is whether he is the right player for us, isn't it?
And that you absolutely spot on, mate, because we can't have a squad full of superstars. You've got for every Haaland or De Bruyne, you've got to have a Fernandinho, haven't you, or a Rodri. So that's what the ingredients what bake a cake. But Paddy, that's back-to-back losses for the first time since 2008. Are you worried at all? I'm not.
We're 8 games in. You can effectively say we've been missing our midfield for the last couple of matches. I think Rodri missing the games was the straw that broke the camel's back, because that midfield today, Rico Lewis and Matteo in midfield, they wouldn't have been on the pitch if KDB and Rodri were there. I'm going to say, watched Arsenal now, right? And I've watched them a few times this season. They're totally mentally fragile. They don't have the mentality to win this league. When you have a manager on the sidelines 7-8 minutes in and he's G'ing the crowd up, and 3 of their players did it in the first half because it was like a hybrid, you just know. Even the celebrations at the end, when they're doing laps, the honours, and Jesus is saying, it's more than 3 points to beat us and all this crap. They don't have the mentality to win the league. They'll struggle in the top 4.
Can I just say, I'm laughing at, sorry, Paddy, I'm just laughing at the way that Andy, I don't know if he ever's going for an interview for a media job or something, because he said, are you worried, Paddy? I'm not. I'm thinking like asking Sunak. So, do you think it was a bad idea for scrap pages too? Because I think it's a really bad idea. Just sorry, Andy, but we can't agree on everything all the time. I've got to go back.
No, it's fine. Everyone's as perfect as me. But to be honest, you touched upon somebody there, metaphorically, Paddy, Jesus, and I've made a note here of Arteta, Jesus, and Zinchenko, and I've put equal dickheads. Don't you think they've become dickheads since they've gone to Arsenal?
You can't swear.
No, that's polite.
Yep.
I must admit, I saw that interview with Jesus at the end of the game.
I didn't.
And he's a dribbling idiot. Honest to God, he couldn't. It was just coherent, rambling what he was talking about, and there was nothing in there.
We used to ask them.
The only thing I thought was like, I see now why Pep got rid of you. There's nothing in there. Like it's like knock knock, hello, anybody home? And I think that's probably why he shuffled them lads over there, put them in the home.
Was you surprised? Was you surprised, Stan, that Kovacic came out for the second half?
No, because he'll change you after an hour. It's a very thin line, isn't it, when you're managing? Very thin line. If you can get another 15 minutes out and then get a fresh pair of legs for the last half hour, and when it's as tight as that, what you don't want is somebody coming on. As it happens in this case, Stones, who's not played a few matches, they're a little bit rusty for 5-10 minutes. And in that 5-10 minutes, if you don't get quite up with the speed of the game, they can be in. Because you've got to hold your lines.
I meant in light of the first yellow and what should have been a second yellow. I just thought it was a time bomb waiting to happen. I actually thought Oliver would have gone in at half time, seen that it should have been a yellow, and just wanted to book him for absolutely anything in the second half. To be fair, he kept his discipline, which I am answering that question. What I'm saying is that I think Pep thought, I'm going to wing it a little bit and just get him for them 15 minutes because as long as he keeps the head, he'll be all right. And he did. And like I say, when it comes to something that crucial, this is why I don't think Pep makes as many changes as people think we should do. If we've got that control and the game's tight, you don't want somebody who's a little bit frozen coming on and making one missed tackle or standing 2 yards where they should be, or all the little things that go on, that when you've got something as complicated as we've got, if you're a tiny little bit out on there, it's a disaster. And I think he'll gamble and he'll think he's professional enough not to do that. And then I can bring somebody on who might make somebody fresh like Doc Ewan, whoever, to come on and make the difference attacking wise. Because at the back, you really don't want to be messing around with the defence that's bedded in, and they're all on the same wavelength. That's all. That's
absolutely right. What I would say, if he was a time bomb, he'd have taken him off straight away.
Yeah.
He didn't think he was. So basically, he's then got through to half time. Well, he shouldn't therefore be, in a bad place mentally or whatever. He's calmed down. You go back to original tactics. But I would say if he looked like he completely lost the plot, as most managers do, take him off pretty quick. But you'd have to really feel that he'd lost the plot. And by the sounds of it, he made 2 really stupid tackles. But that was about it.
This is the thing on podcasts, because we're not at the training and we're not on the bus going to the game and things like that. We don't know who mentally you'll think, right, he's had his meltdown, he'll be all right now. And another player might be thinking, if that had been Nunes, for example, he might have thought, no, better get him off at half time because he won't calm down. But we don't know that. We're not within that inner circle. So
yeah, but Walker gave him a good talking this time when he was coming out for the second half, and Matteo was saying to him, don't worry, I will. He was telling him to calm himself.
No, it's fair enough. It's one of them calls that's very difficult for us to sit on the side and say so, because you don't know the exact what's going on. The mentality of the player, the situation of the game, all things like that. He might have took him off at half time if we were winning 3-0. He thought, well, give him a rest. Doesn't matter. So many little things come into it, Well,
at least we can't blame the ref today, because the ref did us a favour.
Yeah.
So obviously nobody on here is worried. Let us know in the chat. Is anybody worried about the past 3 performances where Rodri's not played? Is it a coincidence it's not been our best? But we can't. We've got to play without Rodri, haven't we, Geoff? At times, so we can't have him playing 60 plus matches a season. So we've got to we've got to find an alternative plan, haven't we?
Yeah, but the 2 obvious alternatives are still relatively new and bedding in, so you can't really judge, can you? I mean, if if you'd exhausted all your other options and you were relying on Rodri, fine, but I don't think we are. So I mean, possibly it's a bit of coincidence. I think, you know, it's certainly not a coincidence that since KDB's not been playing, you know, Haaland's not had the same sort of service, the same sort of chances. It's a different, you know, situation. I think we've lost him more than we probably think. But our squad, I think whether it's Stan or Paddy saying, you know, have we got the strongest squad still? Are we favourites? Yeah, nothing will change today. We'll still be very much favourites. We're in a good place. So, you know, it is over to, I know we can talk about it a lot, but it's definitely back over to Pep and everyone on the training ground and, you know, sorting it out. I'm a little bit like that. I do enjoy the discussions, and we all, you know, we've got the rights to be amateur managers and, you know, have our views, but I do generally think that it is best to be positive where you can. There's certainly some of the negatives just don't make any sense to me. Perspective is the word all the time. And, you know, fans, we all tend to do it. You know, we get emotional and we lose perspective, but perspective says nothing's changed today, really. There'll probably be some learning from it. And actually, maybe it's not a bad thing to get the stat off our back. It's like, oh, another season. Well, you're going to lose it. You're not going to, you know, beat Arsenal every game for the rest of history. So, you know, it's not a bad thing, I don't think. You know, we've lost 2 games. We start again. Not worried, really.
No, because, well, that's 2 out of 2 Arsenal have beat us, because they beat us recently in the Community Shield Super League final, didn't they, Anne-Marie? So,
is it?
Is that the one they qualified for because we can't play ourselves?
Yeah. We invited them.
The plates you eat off, Stan, are bigger than them, aren't they?
Certainly are, mate.
Yeah. So, Anne-Marie, after digesting the game, you know, finished an hour ago, everyone's emotions are up in the air. I agree with Geoff about, you know, let's keep it into, you know, a bit of perspective. I was surprised the Kanji didn't start today. Did we miss a Kanji a little bit? By the way, I thought Diaz, probably one of his poorest games for us today, passing, possession and everything. But I thought we missed the Kanji a little bit.
It's a tricky one to say that, because I think I'm not sure, because for me there's lots of ifs, buts and maybes. For me, Rico had a great game midweek, but I think today's game was a step too far for him. Yeah. That's my honest opinion. I wouldn't have played Rico today.
Who would you have put there then?
Well, what I would probably have done is play Doku or Grealish and put Bernardo in that position, or Foden. That's my honest opinion, because I thought it was just a step too far for him.
While you're being honest, Anne-Marie, can I just ask you a question? Have you been to the Swamp, to Old Trafford recently?
Why would I go there?
I got a feeling you've nicked their trophy cabinet and popped it into your lounge. That's why.
There's more in that.
They're all China things. They're not mine.
And you've not got a leaking roof, have you?
No, that's true.
As far as I know, anyway. That's
for sure.
But that's, you know, that's just me. I think I'm not sure Akanji would have made much difference today. I thought Guardiola had a decent enough game.
Can I ask you all a question? Because obviously I was in the car listening to the Sky commentary on, or whatever it was on today. My son's watching it on the phone in the back, so I'm sort of relying on him. One of the things he was mentioning is that we didn't really, without having any sort of real wingers and real width, it was a very different type of game. That meant that, you know, Walker and Guardiola had a different sort of role, and occasionally it almost looked like they caught Arsenal by surprise because they weren't expecting them to go forwards. But, you know, they must have, that was quite a different setup for us, really. So obviously I've not seen it, but did it look different, and how did that affect the way we played?
There you go first, Paddy.
It was very narrow, Geoff. We weren't we weren't hugging the wings as normal. We were easy to set up against and easy to defend against. And there was one stage there, especially in the second half, where we couldn't get out. We couldn't break the press from Arsenal. They kept losing possession. Especially in I think the first 10 minutes of the second half, it was really bad. But the thing is with Walker, once Walker crosses that halfway line, and then the move breaks down and the ball's getting lobbed over our midfield, and they have half a pitch to run, because Walker's up at the other end of the pitch, and as fast and all as he is, he can't get back, and that puts Diaz under pressure, and it moves your whole defence, because if the attack's coming down, Aki and Gaviscon is going to come across naturally, and then you're leaving Jesus unmarked on the other side of the pitch. We definitely missed the width today. It was very narrow.
I thought, Geoff, and I tweeted something as well. When Arsenal started getting into the match, I felt that's where we could bring Doku or Grealish on, or even both, because we could push them further back then. So Ben White, for instance, he would have to start doing some defending rather than be on the offensive. But with regards to Doku, people, and unfairly as well, people have put Doku on the new Ronaldo, the new Messi pedestal, and A, it's unfair on the lad, and B, we're seeing that it's gonna take a good season, I think, before we see the best of Doku, because he's coming to a new league as a young lad. It's a more physical league than he's probably ever played in his entire life, and all of a sudden, because people have seen him in the Farmers League, they think he's going to be, the next best thing. I just think we're being really unreasonable on him. You're agreeing with me again, aren't you?
I know, it's worrying. I mean,
I like
think of what I've seen of him. He clearly has got he's got a lot to learn. I think he knows that himself, and that's one of the reasons he's probably come to City, because he's got the best coach in the world to learn from. I do feel when he's deep and he's trying to play us out, I think he will probably cost us a goal or two every now and again, because he will lose the ball and we'll get done a couple of times. But it's the excitement of the way that he can go forwards, the skill he's got. It's great to have him in the squad, and I think it's going to be some really exciting times from him. But I agree, the pressure at the minute and the Grealish comparisons, I just don't get that at all. I mean, completely different players. The stuff that's gone on is ridiculous. It's been interesting some of the people who are Doku fans and a bit anti-Grealish, what they say today. Then and if it had been the other way around and Grealish had come on, there'd have been a torrent of criticism. But to me, I mean, the more football you've watched, how many young players have we seen who come in and take a long time to bed in? One of the remarkable things about the academy graduates is how quickly they can slot in. I mean, Oscar Bob, I could not believe how straight away, it's exactly the way. Well, I know why, because if you see academy games, they're all taught exactly the same way. He just slotted in, no nerves. Some of the stuff he did in quite difficult positions was unbelievable, and the commentators actually said very little about it. I thought he deserved a lot more credit. It normally takes, when young lads used to come on decades ago, and you'd be quite nervous for them, and they'd come on for the last 20 minutes, they'd probably make one pass, never go mad, and they'd be struggling. But the lads that come on now, incredible how confident are they slotting, really. And I think they deserve, they don't just deserve credit, but the way that we have run the academy, the system we run, the coaches at all levels, is phenomenal. And it's almost like we expect it now, whereas it used to be we expect a new player to muck up for the first 10 games. It's a different again, we get back to the word perspective now. Sorry, Stan.
So Stan, going back to Geoff's original question, which I went pieced a little bit. Did you think there was times in the game where we was too narrow? Like some of the game, our widest man was Gvardiol.
Yeah, but I think that was more to do, with just dealing with the threat that Arsenal would try to drum up We're talking about being narrow and being.
Oh, you've had a stroke there, Stan. Go on, Anne-Marie, I'll let you go while he's recovering.
Can you hear us, mate? Gone frozen.
Yeah,
there.
you're
Back.
Right.
Go on, Stan. Go on.
No, you just got to play the cards that come up against you. That game was always going to be a little bit different because, I mean, I know, we can slag Arsenal all day. They are better than most teams in that league, and they will get you to move around. And we haven't quite got that thing. Somebody mentioned it earlier about Haaland. Is there a problem with him? There's not really a problem with him, but he's just not quite got that platform that he had last year. And that platform at the moment, two of the biggest, supporting beams in it, Rodri and De Bruyne, aren't in there. So it's going to creak, it's going to move. You're going to get all this, but it's how we deal with it. Did we miss Rodri? Of course we miss Rodri. We've lost 3 while he's not there. I tell you what, that's going to be something that Pep's going to get his teeth into when he realises that we're going to have to learn to find a way to play without him. And I think he's going to love that, coming up with a solution to combat it. God alone knows what's it. It could be anything. Could be Oscar Bob with Rico Lewis in the middle. Nobody knows. Nobody cares. The thing is, he will find a way. And 2 or 3 games, you probably need a few more games to sort of figure out how to overcome a problem that big. But again, it's like Geoff said, it's all down to perspective. We're into the next international one. We're 8 games in. If anyone had said to us at the start of the season, would you be happy to be a couple of points behind the leaders?
Mm-hmm.
Without notoriously slow start, I don't think anyone would have said anything other than, yeah, go on, I'll take that. The fact that we went off like a rocket got everybody a little bit too giddy, and it was like, hang on a minute, there's going to be a few home truths coming, and unfortunately, those home truths come when Rodri isn't there. That's why I'm not getting that excited.
I'm not worried in the slightest. Anne-Marie, I know we sort of touched upon it last week about, I said I think the international break will be coming at the right time, and you quite rightly said that's all well and good as long as we don't get any more injuries.
Yeah.
But all being well, it'll be another couple of games where probably Stonesy will play a little more minutes for England. The same with Jack. Rodri will play for Spain. So that'll be minutes under his belt as well. I still think it's come at the right time, this.
I think it probably has, because for them to get away from the club for a couple of weeks or whatever just takes the pressure off them.
And the fans.
Yeah, and because the fans, I've seen a comment on here, I think it was, I've got a feeling it was Jack that said it a while ago, that he's got the right to boo the team if he wants. My question to Jack is, when did you start supporting Jack? Because yes, we do have a right to. It's the performance we're booing more than the team, but we have to be. It's as supporters, you're supporting them, win, lose, or draw.
It's that word, support.
Exactly.
I picked up on that comment as well, and what I would say, because I've felt strongly about this for many years. Yes, we've got a right. Every supporter's got a right to do what they want, including booing. Should you ever boo? No. And in my view, the reason that you don't do it is posed as a question. Tell me a player that's ever played better after being booed. So if you can actually honestly say, yeah, fine, if it's motivational. If not, you are not supporting the team. You're not helping the team. I understand wanting to boo. I mean, there's been some amazing opportunities for us to boo over the years. I mean, you think of the depths we sunk to, but that's when you support. That's when you get behind the team. Tell me, and anyone who wants to boo, has there ever been a player born that has played better after they've been booed? And then
absolutely spot on. And the backup with that argument as well, at our lowest ever, we built another couple of stands at Main Road because we was that crap. That was the I nearly said that you word then, but it's shown the togetherness back in the day, and I'll go back to what I can understand what some of the youth of today go on about. They don't like us old farts going on about yesteryear and stuff like that. But I think this is a perfect example where you could take a leaf out of our book and have a bit of patience. Because listen, if I went in work and my staff and stuff like that started booing me, I'm not really going to have a good day. It's not going to make me perform better. Now, if I was having a bit of a mare, and my boss come round, he went, "Come on, Andy, you know, we know you're not at your best, but we know you can. We know what you're capable of." Straight away, that'd lift my tail up straight away, metaphorically. So
yeah, that's man management, and Pep's very good at that. We're not supporters anymore; we're customers. Forget about supporters. We haven't been supporters in a long time. We're customers now.
So I had somebody before. You're probably not caught up with it. But somebody actually tweeted me before, and I will quote soon as I see it here.
I'll tell you what, Andy, it's all right for you. I go to work because I get booed at home.
Listen, somebody tweeted me before.
You go to work.
Somebody actually put Pep is clueless, set up for a draw, can't rely on one player to keep the team solid at the back. So apparently Pep's clueless, Geoff.
Well, you just have to laugh. But you know what, in my opinion, is, I mean, you react to a lot of these tweets, and the ones where I know exactly. It's the temptation to react to, and I get that sometimes, and every now and again I'll react and then regret it afterwards. They're not worth reacting to, and giving them 1 second of time is absolutely.
Thank you, Geoff. That's what we've been telling you all the time.
Does that sound familiar, Andy?
It's like an addiction, Andy. And I think if you've been really honest, you say, "Yeah, I know I shouldn't, but I can't help myself."
I should
be honest about it. That's fair enough. Then I think we can let you off, but actually, we never used to have this problem years ago. I mean, it's one of the. If you want to proof that God's a City fan, I mean, just imagine if social media and stuff had been around when we lost at York and slumped to 12th in Division 3. Imagine the sort of comments and tweets. Well, it didn't come in, did it, till well after that, fortunately. So United in all their great glory years never had really the chance. It was all verbals and down the pub and across, when you're speaking to your mates on the phone. Whereas now, it's perfectly set up for us. But no, it is difficult. I mean, I do. The main social media for me is Twitter. I can't seem to get into Instagram and other stuff, which I know I should. But it is difficult. Not just about football.
You're too old now for that, Geoff.
Yeah, I know, probably. Yeah.
Let me ask you a question then, Geoff. And I broach this subject many times, and it's sort of like on the flip side of the booing, what we've just touched upon. We've got people now, which is equally as bad, where they're atting on Twitter the players, telling them how crap they are. We've had instances where people are at Jack Grealish. I hope you get a cruciate so my boy Doku can get more game time, stuff like that. Yeah, I should just block. But I think, and I know we've sort of like the profession what you've been in and stuff like that. If you was the manager of City, would you say, right, boys and girls, no more social media? We don't need that. And the fans would suffer. The people who'd suffer most are the boo boys, if you like, or the ones who are doing the nastiness to these players.
Well, it's a difficult one. Firstly, I'm not sure whether it's the manager's role to do that. I think in this day and age, you would expect to have some professional social media advice. You're sitting down with the lads and they're saying, right, our advice would be this. And the advice might well be, just don't do this, don't, or, by all means have an account, but never look at it or get someone to, I don't know, whatever the advice would be. I don't think it would necessarily come from the manager. You can't just put a blanket ban on players because they do a lot of good with the social media as well. If any of those people, like someone wishing a cruciate ligament injury on Jack Grealish, if they really think that either Jack Grealish, A, is looking at the post or B, cares, two hoots, they're deluded. And unfortunately, there are a lot of deluded people on Twitter, and they I mean, let's be honest, it is the sort of cult of personality and all the rest of it. Careful, I said that. And I think it was basically, you could argue, and let me be controversial now, if you look at the show now that you're hosting and various other people who've become sort of either mini or major celebrities or whatever in their own right, for what reason? Because they've managed to hit on the right format. But actually, if you look at that now, why are they really doing that? Are they doing it because they actually have got a little bit of an ego? They want to do it for themselves? No one ever really asks the question because it seems impolite. I think it's a perfectly fair question. It's the same with charitable things, or when they're a bit vague about money. Well, just be honest about things. And I think there's that's the society we live in now, that people are sort of desperate for a bit of publicity and celebrity to get away from their ordinary lives. And there's a lot of psychology in all of that. You get into a different debate, but social media gives ordinary people the chance to be extraordinary.
Yeah, and again, we've said this many times, there is city aggregators as well as other clubs aggregators out there what just pump absolute rubbish out for clicks, which equals money. Listen, that's entirely up to them, but I think we've got as a fan, no matter who we support, we've got a choice whether to click them or not. But sadly, there seems to be more being clicked now than, people like me are responsible for retweeting lunatics and stuff like that. I'm partly to blame. But as Paddy and Anne-Marie keep telling me, as you've told me, I just need to ignore them.
You got to remember, Andy, and it goes back on what Geoff said there. Every village since time began has had an idiot. The problem is now social media has given that idiot a voice, and we can hear him. When we were at school, if you did something wrong, only the people who were there that day would know about it. Now, it's gone viral.
Stan, while you're at it, you may as well give your Twitter handle out then.
Now, the other thing is, as well, going back about booing people, I remember an interview with Joe Corrigan years and years ago, and people who remember Joe early on in his career struggled. And he did a lot of work. He did a lot of work getting back into that. And people, he was asked, did people booing help? And he went, no, it didn't. It just destroys you from the inside. Fortunately, he had got a lot of good people around him who helped him and overcame it. And he turned into one of the best keepers we've had. So, yeah, booing people, leave it out. To be fair, again, the last thing on that is, having said that, what does keep me having a sound sleep every night is that if Pep Guardiola ever went, at least I know I'm with these 10,000 City fans out there who have got more knowledge than him. So we'll always be all right. Any one of them could step in and do that job. We'll be all right. There's no point in us worrying because Bill from Rotherham, he'll sort it out for us.
Just on that subject, going back to many years ago when I worked at City, and it was a much smaller club, so you got to know a lot more of the things that went on, on the pitch in the manager's office and whatever. And when on the regular occasions that the manager's job came up, you would get letters in from fans, I wish I'd managed to keep a couple because they were hysterical. But I can remember one guy who said, I've already influenced the guy. I stand right at the front of the Kippax, and such a player was taking a throw, and I said to him, throw it to such and such a player, and he did. And obviously I've got, I'm the man for the job sort of thing, and used to get these crazy letters, and again, it's a bit of delusion there really, but it used to give us a laugh, to be quite honest.
It's great, isn't it?
You'd probably still get them.
Superhero, Binman by day, treble winner by night. Meet our new manager. It's unbelievable.
That's where football has lost its sense of humour a little bit. And something, I will put my hand up here and say something about our channel. Yeah, it's we're not in it to make money. It's far from it. We're in it to do giveaways and stuff like that. But one thing I always pride ourselves on this channel is, even though results like today, we always have to like a little giggle about it. Like that City humour. It's important that Anne-Marie, that we not that you look at Anne-Marie, but we like to have a bit of City humour, don't we?
Oh God, you've got to have it, because that's part of us, being brought up on the old joke when IDOS support were sponsoring us, 11 idiots dreaming of success. That's exactly what we were, and you could laugh about it, and that makes the supporting of it even better. It makes the days that we have now even better. You know,
you're right. A lot. So if you look now at, you know, the younger generation of City fans, the sense of humour tends to be against other clubs, against, you know, because we've done so well. In terms of self-deprecating humour, the humour where we've been used to having the mickey taken out of us for so long, they have no experience of it. They can't really do it, and that's what we used to say United fans were like. And I think that's a genuine issue. You know, I don't know quite what you do about it, but how do you teach a young City fan to laugh at themselves when actually we've had nothing to laugh about because we've been that good? It's not easy, is it?
That's such a massive issue, Geoff, because for me, I go, you know, I was at Main Road and whatever, and there are certain days that will forever stick in my memory. Example, the day we got relegated playing Liverpool and Niall Quinn running down the touchline, telling them we needed to score, and sitting in the car park at Main Road trying to get out, and the bloody plane flying over because those knobheads across the road had won the league again. Devastated, absolutely devastated. And then you go and you have the Gillingham game and being at that game and going from total devastation to unbelievable elation in such a short space of time. So we have that benefit. We really have seen the highs and lows. You know, and the younger fans today have got no experience of it and don't want to hear about it. So for them, losing a game is completely devastating. Whereas for us, it's one game, we move on. You know, and that's the difference. We've been there at the worst, and unfortunately, our newer fans, our younger fans, have never experienced that. So for them, losing one game is the end of the world.
Okay, then. How are we going to fix it, Anne-Marie? If you had a magic wand?
I think, again, it's about, you know, we've said it on here many times that what we find, even on the Facebook group, is that when we start talking about the bad old days, we get told not to dwell on them because that's the past. But what these younger fans, and it's like giving them an education. It's like teaching them that, and I know that probably sounds quite condescending, and I don't mean it in that way, but you have to have the bad to really appreciate the good. And whether it's a case of a little bit of an education or, you know, for them to realise what we went through and you know, obviously as a female supporter, it was probably more emotional, maybe than for yourselves. You know, the day.
There's nothing you can do about it, Anne-Marie. I just don't. I just think that's the way it is. I'm not making any points, as you say. It's not about being condescending. But, you know, every supporter has their place. However old they are, whatever they do, we've all got different situations. We can't sort of somehow inculcate our values into people who've only since. So I know you're not saying that, but I just think it's an interesting point, and it's trying to understand their perspective as much as they've got to understand ours, and they can't 100%. Really get that unless you've suffered in that way and worked out a way of using humour. So that's why that's why I like this channel, because like there's always a bit of a laugh and a giggle. You know, the humour is the most important thing in sport. If you lose that, you might as well give up. And you do get the impression that supporters of some clubs don't really have a sense of humour, but you know, I think we do, and that's a special quality, and that's why I think we would love the younger fans to have it, because you know that's what you need. I'm not saying they don't, but it's more difficult for them.
It's all part.
There's one as well. There's an analogy that I like. That's self-made wealth lasts about 3 or 4 generations, and what they say is that somebody who makes their own fortune, who got up early in the morning, had to do the work, did it all in, valued it, and built up the wealth. Then they had a son who lived in the 100-roomed mansion, who never knew what it was like to get up in the morning, didn't understand the value of the wealth, and then started fritting it away a little bit. By the time his grandson come along, there was nothing left, and nobody knew how to get the money back because the guy that did the hard work had long gone. And I think we do have a little bit of that within every club that's successful. It's not just us. And I think it is a bit harsh on the kids because the kids didn't. It's not their fault they were born in 2000. So this is why we don't like criticising them. But then again, did any of us listen to some old fart when we were their age? Probably not. But it's a circle of life, isn't it? And,
here's one for you. Obviously, John doesn't support City. You wouldn't have any young City fans if your club wasn't brought. I think they mean bought, don't they? By an oil-rich country.
It's a shame, isn't it? It's a shame for John there. He's got one thing to say and got it wrong.
Anyway, say bye to John.
Can you imagine making all that effort to come on? There's your big chance you're on the stage and you blow it because the one thing you said was wrong.
Yeah.
Absolutely wrong.
So yeah, I'm with you. Right. Again, I'm not worried in any way, shape, or form. And I think, 99% of the guys in the chat as well, that it is what it is. Our next home game is our next Premier League game is a home game against Brighton. And you know something? They're going through a little bit of an up and down time. They had a great result today, by the way, 2-2 against Liverpool. But they're noticing a little bit of a difference being in Europe, playing on a Thursday now, aren't they? So we'll have Rodri back because we're a one-man team apparently. Yeah. Let Anne-Marie, I'll let you and Stan take over for a couple of minutes about the game today, the women's match, and how farcical it was.
What an absolute joke. An absolute joke. And it was the sending off, the first sending off was absolutely ridiculous. The booking, her initial booking was spot on, but the second booking for time wasting was it was pathetic.
26 seconds.
Yeah, it was an absolute joke. And then, obviously Hemp got sent off as well. And I think from the bit that I saw of it, that was probably a right decision. But then to add 8 minutes on at the end of the game, which obviously, is the way it is now. But I honestly believe that referee would not have blown the whistle until Chelsea equalised. Mm-hmm. And I think even because they equalised quite quick into added time, that again she was because they ended up playing way more than 8 minutes. I think it was about 15 minutes.
13 it was.
Yeah. So it was like she was willing them to score a second goal, because by the end of the game we were down to 8 men because of women. Sorry, because we'd had somebody else had gone off with cramp and we'd used all our substitutions. So it was like the referee was just desperate for them to win the game. It was embarrassing, and we should put in a really big complaint about that referee.
I'm sure.
I honestly thought some Chelsea fan had dressed up as a ref, got on the pitch, and nobody had noticed for 90 minutes because they didn't know what the real ref looked like. The only thing that was missing from that performance was the size 49 clown shoes that you normally get, where at least you can distinguish, whether they are doing it for a joke or not. Never seen, honest to God, 20 years I've watched women's football, never seen anything like it.
Or even not just women's football, any kind of officiating.
Oh, I don't know. Have you seen some of that Wythenshawe Sunday League? Yeah.
So yeah,
I used to love that league. Make sure your opponent has their manager as referee in the first half, because no matter how bad he gets, you've got the second half to write it up and win the game. That was the rule. That was it. And if you could manage that and do it every week, you won the league. It was great.
So, Anne-Marie, I'll let you answer what Alex saying there, seeing as you're our female female panelist.
I think responded.
I think
Kevin Keegan don't watch women's football.
Is an absolute embarrassment and should keep his mouth shut. Because
what did you say? I didn't see it.
I'd love it. Geoff, Keegan is. I think it's been taken out of context a little bit. Keegan is pretty much said women shouldn't commentate on men's game because it's a total different game. What else did he say now? But he did go on to say that the game has improved brilliantly. You know, he likes watching the women's game and stuff like that, but the commentating is not up to scratch. I will say one thing: Izzy Christensen is brilliant as a pundit. I love watching Izzy Christensen when she's punditing.
She is, and I think it's unfair to kind of, you know, the women have got. I know there's so much around political correctness, and you know we have to have different representation, whether it be commentating, whether it's be presenting or whatever. But for me, if you look at the women that we've got doing that these days, you know, the likes of Alex Scott, who comes across really well. You know, you see Jill Scott's flying at the minute with all her media stuff. And I think we just, everyone's entitled to the opportunity. And for me, as you know, I'm nearly 50, but as a young girl,
again,
get lost. But as a young girl, to have had such a female role model within football would have been amazing. There would have been nothing I would have loved more than to have been able to go and watch and be part of women's football as a kid. But it was unheard of. And I think we've got to keep promoting it. There looked to be a fantastic crowd at City's ground today for the match, and I think we need to encourage that. And especially with young kids, it's the closest they're ever going to get to meeting professional football players, because they're never going to meet the men's team like that.
So you didn't love it what Keegan said?
No, I think Keegan's a knob.
Right, listen.
You know what? It's funny because can I just jump in here? It's funny because back in the day when nobody was interested in the women's game, he was England manager and then he became City's manager. And I worked with him for a few years on stuff like that. And he was very, very, very supportive of the women's game. He was one of the very few. Yeah, Keegan. And this is what surprised me with what he said. It didn't quite tally up with what he had done in the past. Not defending him at all there. I'm just
misinterpretation what I said. That's what I believe. Because
it's not the interpretation thing. It's the fact that he did do a lot at a time where there wasn't a lot going on. Like the women would be training in a park somewhere. But he'd say, hang on a minute, if they're representing England and if they're doing this and they're doing that, they can come and train here. You know, and he'd have them at county FAs with decent pitches and things like that. Mm-hmm. Wasn't quite, you know, the same level, but it was thousands of levels higher than what they were used to.
He used to go across coaching when he was England manager, didn't he?
Yeah, you know, and he'd do that. He gave up his time and he did it. He went to matches. You know, he would actually go to England games to support them. So what he said just didn't tally up with what he had done in the past. Now, he might just become a bitter old man. I don't know. This is where, you know, things change and things move on, and he may have been taken out of context. I don't know, but I just thought it'd be fair to say that, you know, you can only judge people as you meet them. And I must admit, what came across there didn't really represent what he was doing. Why it's changed, I don't know. You'd have to ask him. But
right,
I just thought it'd be fair.
I want to end on something what's pretty sad this week, and that was the passing of Franny Lee. As I said at the start of the show, we've not really been able to, you know, pay our tributes and stuff like that, you know, with it happening, you know, during the week. My thoughts of Franny was he tried to help us at probably and you knew Franny well, didn't you, Geoff? So my thoughts of him, he's somebody who loves City. He tried to save us. It didn't work. And by no stretch of the imagination, should that a failure should be remembered for what he actually did on the pitch and what he tried to do off the pitch for us. How would you sum him up, Geoff? Seeing as you knew him. Difficult
to sum up Francis, really, and without having another whole show, really. I mean, I was very lucky. I mean, Francis was a boyhood hero. My first ever. As you can probably tell from my slightly rounded tones, I lived down south for. I born up here, but moved down south. My first game was a pre-season friendly at Oxford United in 1971 as a 9-year-old, and I can see Franny scoring now after 5 minutes. Incidentally, we lost that 4-1, which wasn't a bad, with the Lee Bell Summerby team, which wasn't a bad introduction for a City fan. Some poor so-and-so. The first ever game was 1976 League Cup final. I thought we were going to win lots, but anyway. Francis, a boyhood hero. Then, of course, as chairman, when I was working as commercial manager at City, so I served under him, and that was an interesting experience. He could be hard work. I mean, Francis was always right. He wouldn't necessarily have much empathy, but he had charisma. He was a leader, and he came up with some amazing stuff off the pitch. So, forgetting the on the pitch stuff for a minute, I know that's difficult. Some of the stuff we did off the pitch was revolutionary. I could talk about that for a long time. And then lastly, as a family friend, I've stayed in touch with Francis and seen him regularly. We had a lovely lunch together back in March, actually, when he was over here. He spent a lot of time in Portugal in recent years, and we had a lovely lunch for a few hours, reminiscing, talking about all sorts of things. He opened up about lots of things, and I really treasure that now because it's been the easiest thing not to have done that back in, you lose touch with people, but we had a really nice time. But it was a shock because there was no real indication that anything was happening that quickly, and I still can't quite get my head around that. Obviously, I knew about his illness, but not the one that has been talked about in terms of what took his life. But he made a huge impact on probably hundreds of thousands of people's life as a City player, as a childhood hero. With all the different colleagues he played with, and then of course in business, he's a tremendously successful businessman. And he was a unique sort of player. I think some players you think, well, there's 2 or 3 others a bit like them, and there's no player like Franny. He was barrel-chested, different, not just a goal scorer, but also he could see it. He was an intelligent footballer, and just a huge personality. Not everyone loved Francis. There'll be some people who he fell out with, and some people aren't like that. You're friends with everyone. But Francis would have had his detractors. There's no doubt about that. But no, it's a really, really sad day. And I think it feels like something of my City youth has gone now with Colin, which was dreadfully sad. And of course, Francis, and bless him, Mike is soldiering on, and it's hit him really hard, as you can probably imagine. And I think we've got to think about Mike now because, he's lost a huge friend as well as a playing colleague. And that, for those of us that are old enough to remember seeing that side, they were the holy, trinity. They were amazing, totally different players. So very, very sad for everyone around the football club. I'm sure the football club, one of the things I love about modern Manchester City is they respect the past. They respect former players, and I think they will do it well. It'll be sent off in style with lots of happy memories, lots of humour as well, because Francis had a great sense of humour. And maybe on another occasion we can talk about some of that. But for now, it is a bit of a shock, and it's a sad day for the football club. But like someone was saying earlier, I think it was Stan, it's a circle of life, and we as we get older, we have to get used to losing great friends and great people and people in the family and so on. And Francis was a huge member of the Manchester City family.
It's just an absolute shame that he won't be there in person, to see the statue unveiled of Lee and Summerby. I know he'll be there in spirit, but as you say, thoughts go to Buzzer now because it's like losing your arm or your leg in it. Not like you say, not just on the pitch, but actually as friends, probably best friends, and it's just absolutely terrible. Have you got any good memories, Anne-Marie?
I met him once or twice, and he always came across as a really decent bloke. And I know I can only go off what my dad says about watching the 3 of them play together. it's so sad for City, but I'm glad that they'd already got in place this statue of the three of them. That's not just because. It's not just because Franny's died or Colin's died. It was something that was already in the pipeline, and it is something, like you say, that our new owners do respect our past and what those players in particular brought to us. But it's always a shame, isn't it? When people that you've looked up to. I mean, I can remember not that I ever took part in it, but I do remember the Forward with Franny campaign, and the odd protest outside Main Road, but was never actually part of it. And he did amazing things for City, and then you look at who came in after them with Bernstein and Wardle. And while we might not see it now, it was all a massive springboard to what was going to become of us, because...
Can I just say on that, you touched on a really important thing, and if you talk about his legacy, he was the guy that really sorted out and brought to reality the move to the new stadium. And there's been a lot of history been rewritten a lot about that, but Francis would often say to me, I think they did upset him more than he let on when successive people took a bit of credit for it. And he said, I've got the original contract in my loft, it's there, which is there somewhere. And it was him that did it. And he used to do a lot of supporters at that time didn't really necessarily want to move. And it was like, basically, he would say to supporters, do you want to have a stadium that's better than Old Trafford? And now finally, because it probably wasn't the case at the start, but I think we can almost say that we are at that point now. And another thing you reminded me of, they used to do really well. After a match day, we used to get a few complaints, to be fair, on all sorts of things, whether it was the pies, whether it was the players. And Francis would regularly just sit in the office and he would just phone people. I'm sure a lot of fans probably, maybe even listening to this, but will have had that. And it's like suddenly you'd be in the office and there's someone called Francis Lee on the phone. And that was actually a lovely sort of touch. He tried to, whilst he didn't, like I said before, didn't have great empathy, had no clue popping about prices. We'd sort of say, you can't be charging that, Francis. He had no clue about the real world sometimes, but he understood humanity and what people were like and how important the fans were. Just one thing I brought to shine, I don't know if this will actually come out, and maybe finally after all these years I'll now open it, but this was a whiskey. I don't know if you can see it on the camera. It's all gone blurred on the thing. We've all gone blurred now. Oh, there we go.
Yeah, hold it there. Yeah, what's it say?
Sporting pastimes.
Sporting pastimes. Yep.
This is whiskey, and there's like a story on the back. It talks about when he was trout fishing up in Scotland, and he liked this whiskey so much that he bought all these barrels. And he basically says, the following day, this is after they were now sober, I duly purchased several barrels of malt whiskey, the contents of which I've had specially bottled for my friends. It cannot be bought, only received as a gift. But please remember, when savouring this wonderful whiskey, that it is 80% proof and should be drunk with care or diluted with Scottish water. So I am not a Scotch drinker, but I am thinking really now would be the time, maybe, perhaps when we have his wake, to actually open it. 80%, Andy, I don't know if you've got any advice on how that should be handled.
I think you should mix that with Sambuca and Jaeger. I'm sure he would approve.
The thing is, Andy, the thing is with Franny Lee is he wasn't just a footballer for a club. He was an absolute legend at 3 clubs. And there's very, very few people that can do that. You move and people don't like you. And I'm lucky, a couple of Bolton fans and a couple of Derby fans. The Bolton fans loved him. And they were pleased for him to move on to City. And City did well. And even when he scored against us, just look at his face, You were really pleased for him. So you realised the cheeky wee shite had scored against us. But you were still really happy. He might have cost us a league or he might have done damage. But he won the league for Derby. And they loved him too. And I tell you what, you can't, to use you there, Geoff, you can't bottle that. You can't bottle that. having been an absolute legend at 3 clubs.
You can bottle 80% whiskey though.
Yeah,
he must have had that at half time, because he never stopped running, he never stopped grafting, he gave everything, and that's what fans want. He was one of them rare people where he lived the dream you wanted by putting that shirt on. He was living your dream, and he knew it, and he understood it, and he knew what it meant.
You're right about the exactly. So you make a really good point. I never thought of it that way, but even more than that, he then retired when he could easily have played on for probably a couple more seasons. And he was telling me actually when we were at lunch, Derby offered him a deal to do 1 more season, which would have made him the highest paid player in the country. But he turned that down and decided it was time to finish at the top and all the rest of it. Business which he did well. So he was a one-off, Francis, and I'll be watching carefully on eBay though. Make sure none of his so-called friends aren't putting any of that whiskey on that. I've been waiting for the opportunity.
So absolutely. Well, yeah, what a great tribute, and it's just fitting that we've had you on as our special guest tonight as well, Geoff, and we thank you for that. A couple of things before we go. I like coffee. Yeah. Oh, I thought he was going to win today. Coffee. He was 2-1 up. I like coffee's a Newcastle fan. The 93-20, mate. That's when Aguero scored in the 93rd and 22nd minute, mate. Thanks for joining us tonight, guys. And also condolences to Sir Alex Ferguson's wife, Lady Cathy, as well. It's not been a great week for both Manchester clubs, really. So, we will park it there. Thanks for joining us, Geoff. It's been, as always, mate. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for everyone in the chat, as always. Thank you very much, Stan. It's always a pleasure to have you on, mate.
What is?
Paddy, thank you very much, my friend. Anne Marie, good to see that you've saw sense after your initial strop after the match, and you've put your City shirt on and you've put your Chelsea one away. Until next week, guys, have a great week, and we'll do it again. See you later.